My name is Will Sparks, and I'm here to talk to you about the framework for the Actualized Leader Profile. This component of the assessment is critical because I want you to know that it's been built on the seminal work of researchers in human development psychology throughout the years. So we're going to explore such notable theorists as Carl Jung, David McClellan, Abraham Maslow, and Viktor Frankl. And through this short presentation, I hope you'll have a better sense of the theory that the ALP is built upon. So let's get started. The first theorist is Carl Jung. In many ways, Carl Jung's work sets the primary foundation for the entire ALP. Carl Jung is the famous Swiss psychologist, born in 1875. He died in 1961. Arguably the most influential psychologist in human history. If you've ever referred to yourself as introverted or extroverted, if you've ever used the term synchronicity, the collective shadow, archetypes, complexes, on and on and on, many concepts that Jung is famous for. Individual differences. He actually set the groundwork for the motive needs that we're going to talk about in just a moment with David McClellan. Carl Jung also was a forerunner of Abraham Maslow with his concept of what he called individuation or self-realization. Abraham Maslow cited Carl Jung in that work as a forerunner for his concept of self-actualization, the process by which we reach our highest potential. So Jung's theory and his influence is certainly a part of the self-actualization piece. But the most important element that Carl Jung provides for the ALP is his notion of the shadow. We're going to discuss the shadow in greater detail in another video. But for our purposes now, this notion of the other, the darker side, where we go under stress, is really critical for the concept of the leadership shadow that we will discuss in the ALP framework. After Carl Jung, David McClellan, deceased Harvard psychologist, absolutely critical theorist for the ALP. McClellan was born in 1917. He died in 1998. He was influenced by one of Jung's, quote, disciples, Morgan, who encouraged McClellan to explore human behavior from a motive need or a style perspective. McClellan found, and his research has been replicated many times over, that there are primarily three motive needs that drive our behavior. Each need is different, and resulting from that is a style and what I've added to the framework, a leadership shadow. The first need is the need for achievement, and that is the style that I refer to as achievers, again, that we'll discuss in a future video. The second motive need is the need for affiliation, and that is the style that I refer to as the affirmers. The third and final motive need is the need for power, and that style in the ALP framework is the asserter style. So McClellan, critical for this research, again providing really the backbone for understanding those needs that drive our style. Of course, in the name, Actualized Leader Profile, Abraham Maslow, really the father of the humanistic movement in psychology and famously coined the term self-actualization, is absolutely key for this work. Maslow was born in 1908. He died in 1970. Again, he's largely credited today with the forerunner of what we know as applied positive psychology, the humanistic movement. He was really the first researcher to try to define or operationalize self-actualization by identifying the characteristics and attributes of self-actualized individuals. And then finally, the fourth researcher, absolutely foundational for this work, is Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl, a psychologist and a philosopher, was born in 1905. He died in 1997. Viktor Frankl's great claim to fame is his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which describes his experiences surviving the Holocaust and Auschwitz. Frankl was noted for a number of advancements in the field. One was logotherapy, the search for meaning in our lives is the ultimate source that drives our behavior. He also talked about that we have the only guaranteed freedom is our ability to choose our response to any person or any situation. But what is foundational for the ALP framework is Frankl's concept of paradoxical intent. Paradoxical intent, which simply means this: the more you fear something, the more likely you are to experience it. And that's foundational for the ALP, because when we begin looking at the three leadership shadows, the fear of failure, or the fear of rejection, or the fear of betrayal, we come to the realization that the more we let fear drive our reactive behavior, the more likely we are to experience the very thing we're trying to avoid. So in this process of going through the ALP, I'm going to encourage you to truly be open and vulnerable in growing your self-awareness. But as a reminder, self-awareness disturbs and disrupts. Self-awareness does not comfort. However, it's in this disturbance that we truly are awakened to greater possibility and ultimately to our highest potential. Carl Jung famously said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own souls." It's my hope that through the work with the ALP, that you'll not only have a better understanding of your motive need and what drives your style, but the darker side of that as well, your leadership shadow, where you go under stress. And it's through that greater awareness that we stop avoiding our own souls and we begin to accept it, even embrace it, as we can integrate that darker side of ourselves. I often tell people, if you don't manage your shadow, it will manage you. And it's my hope that in this process, going through this, you will be better able to manage your leadership shadow.